Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Liz Hoagland, Director of Education and Workforce Development at Fairfield County's Community Foundation, and I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be here today. And we're going to have two panels of experts who are going to talk through some of the findings of the paper and their reactions. And so first, I'd like to invite up panel number one, which includes Jesse Buccolo from Norwalk Acts. He's the Deputy Director there. It's a collective impact partnership that focuses on cradle-to-career initiatives. His responsibilities include overseeing strategic planning, data, communications, and operations. And Lamond Daniels is Chief of Community Services for the City of Norwalk. Lamond is responsible for departments that directly affect the social well-being and health for nearly 90,000 residents, which include Health and Human Services, Fair Rent, Public Library, and Early Childhood and Youth Services. He brings more than 20 years of experience in the human service sector. Carol Wiltshire-Toth is an education administrator of workforce development and school counseling with Norwalk Public Schools. Her former work in higher education, business, and school counseling pre-K-12 has afforded her a unique lens in establishing a new workforce development ecosystem in the district. Carol has implemented career pathways based on our national 16 career clusters for 9 schools in grades 6 through 12, embedded workforce development workshops, and created the Norwalk Public Schools Workforce Development Series for scholars and families. And finally, and certainly last but not least, Mark Argosh is the Executive Director for Social Venture Partners and is also the Chair of the Governor's Workforce Council. Across the private and nonprofit sectors, Mark brings more than 30 years of experience as senior advisor, investor, and partner to Fortune 500 companies, mid-sized companies, and leading nonprofit organizations and foundations. So I'd like to invite you all up, and we're going to ask a few questions of these experts. So thanks again. So each of you all come from some really key distinct areas of expertise that can really impact our community well. And so first, I would just like to ask, what are some of your global reactions to this paper, and your unique areas of focus? Where do you really see ways to contribute to solutions and uplifting the work locally and regionally? And we can just kind of start with Jesse and move across.
All right. So thank you so much for having us up here. And I really appreciate the Fairfield County Community Foundation and the Business Collaborative for backing this white paper. I think it's really important that our local business community is a part of this conversation and this work. The fact is that workforce development doesn't work without employers at the table. And so thank you for supporting this. And the journey to get here from just listening to themes that weren't actually part of the grant proposal to get us to something like this is just really, I really appreciate it. So I think like a couple of the key themes that really kind of stuck out to me from this paper is that we now have a foundational understanding of what jobs that don't require a 2 or 4 year degree lead to livable wage employment. And before this, it was really hard to understand what jobs and what the training was required for those jobs and what skills was required for those jobs. So now that we have an idea that there are 15 jobs that can lead to livable wage employment and offer career advancement is, I think, a huge piece that really sticks out for me.
Oh, I want to echo Jesse's kind of thank you to the Business Collaborative and Fairfield County Community Foundation and all the organizations that were involved in this great work. My overall reaction is that it hits the target really, really well. I mean, I think it's really an excellent analysis of where we are, not only kind of locally, but also, as a state. And the whole emphasis on building these cross-sector partnerships is really critical if we're going to be able to kind of move forward. A couple of other quick comments I would say is that I think we need to reach youth a lot earlier. We have to start earlier. And that's in the report also. We can't kind of start, when youth are, in their 20s. We have to start in middle school and high school and provide youth opportunities early on to gain the kind of education, the soft skills, the exposure to work, and the opportunity to earn college credit. I would like to see Connecticut look like other states in the future where, 30, 40% of the enrollment in our community college system are high school students. And that's entirely possible. Other states are doing that. That would be a difference maker. We wouldn't lose, people wouldn't become opportunity youth if we could reach youth earlier and provide them the supports that they need in all this. So I think I really like this a lot. We do have to build infrastructure, as the report lays out, but my one caution there would be to kind of leverage existing infrastructure as well, because there's a lot of work going on already. If you are a business leader, I'm sure you're kind of feeling, overly connected some days. You're hearing from all kinds of different organizations to kind of get involved. The sectoral approach that was laid out here really fits well with the regional sector partnerships that have been established in key industries, and we probably need to build more of them, but we have a really robust set that touch this area and all that, where you have business leaders, education leaders, and community leaders kind of working together. So I would say, making what we have work a lot better is a really great place to start on this.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Lamont Daniels, Chief of Community Services for the City of Norwalk. Just want to bring you greetings on behalf of the Honorable Mayor Harry Rillen. Thank you for the invitation, and welcome to Norwalk for those that are here. I see some guests and colleagues from other places. So, I think as I think about our role as a government entity, echo some of the things that have already been said. There's some great things already happening in Norwalk, but when I think about this document, it lays out a very nice blueprint of how to have those deeper conversations. And most certainly, as I often say, government has a role in this work because there are children too and there are kids, and we want to make sure all our children and young adults thrive and be able to live in Norwalk or afford to live in Norwalk, but we can't do it alone. And so I'm just excited about this paper. We look forward to looking at it much closer. I can say and take pride that Mayor Rillen is aware of this paper. And we are having those conversations, and we'll be introducing it with our Common Council to talk about how Norwalk, the city side, can play a role. And I think I'll lastly close that we are working to think about what role can we play. We're very proud to offer initial investment in some of the work through Norwalk Acts, through hiring a person to kind of help us think about this. And we continue to think about our role more and more because oftentimes people look to the city for money. And that's okay because you do need money. But also, I think using the mayor's the bully pulpit, because oftentimes when the mayor calls meetings, people come. And so we're just excited to be here and to think about what role we can play with the wonderful partners that are already here in the room. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm a proud educator from Norwalk Public Schools, and for me, the paper was absolutely affirming to what we know to be true. And I have to say that I was so fortunate to be brought on, as a former school counselor, I was able to be brought on in this particular role because I've been pre-K to 12 with our kiddos. I've been there to ignite the passion and to see how we can lead them into workforce and all the things that we can do when we build this ecosystem. I think for me, one of the key takeaways is the lens of support, the support that our scholars need at every single, we talk about transition points, but throughout the entire time. I would say that every day is a transition point in school and thereafter. And so how we work with our scholars and our families, what we provide for them through a workforce development ecosystem matters, and it has to be with great intentionality. And so for me, it was quite affirming, something that is very, very important, and looking forward to moving forward in our collaborations as we're able to affirm everything that we're learning about and that's being documented.
Thank you all so much. So I think that's a really great segue to one of my next questions, which is that many of the key takeaways in this paper are known to a lot of the key stakeholders in this room and elsewhere. But what do you think are some of the complex challenges of collaboration that have led to these themes to continue to persist with our young people? And where do you see opportunities in this current moment in time? And I'm going to ask, Jesse, Carol, And Mark, if you three could specifically speak to that.
Okay, our work is all about relationships. I work for a collective impact group, and collective impact is the idea that no organization on its own can achieve long-lasting social change, and that when we're interacting with work around systems change work, it requires cross-sector collaboration. And that's a lot of jargon that I just threw at you. So the idea is that we can't be working in silos and that we have to be working together. And so collaboration's also a bit messy because partnership moves at the speed of trust. And so it's really important that when we come together, that we establish that trust. And the fact is that when we're talking about system change work and when we're trying to build trust, that takes a lot of time. And there's this constant thing that we have to move fast and we have to act and we need to get results quickly. But in system change work, we have to accept that that takes time and be okay with that and kind of go with the messiness that exists. I do want to kind of say that one of the things that's been really exciting to see is that there's been a shift in impact investing as well as in philanthropy around funding collaboratives. The traditional funding model for nonprofits is funding one organization on its own, and that creates organizations to pit against each other and to compete for funding. And the fact is that no organization can take this work on alone. So collaborative funding opportunities are a wonderful way to bring people to the table and to get people to stay at the table for a long time. And I'm excited to see that Fairfield County Community Foundation has been a big part of bringing in collaborative funding. And the fact is that when you get people to the table and you get them to stay at the table, ideas and strategies emerge, and those ideas will require additional funding. And so I think that's a huge piece that can be an opportunity as we talk about cross-sector partnerships and coalitions and collaboration, is collaborative funding opportunities that can support those. And the last piece I'll just add is getting people to the table, creating a shared agenda, following up with people, creating data. That requires a backbone entity, which is what we do at Norwalk Acts, and that also requires a little funding. And so it's hard to do all of that in one piece, so I just want to kind of add that last note.
I would just add that I think we have to think about the current state of workforce systems in Norwalk, in Connecticut, and even in our country, which are broken, basically. We have a broken workforce system. And that's what makes this work really, really, really difficult. Start with the fact that you need that employers are dealing with real significant changes in the workforce. That's why, as the report says, it's so difficult to hire people, because what they're looking for, what employers are generally looking for in terms of kind of degrees and credentials and such, they're not likely to find. And yet there are many, many people they could be considering who have skills or experiences that should allow them to be hired. So we're really talking about kind of a massive change in the kind of hiring process, and as the report says, then the mentoring and process within companies to help people succeed in those companies, and then the building out the pathways, because we can't stop with entry-level jobs. People are not going to be able to support themselves that way. And so, we could kind of take a lens on any given industry. We spend a lot of time, and we've partnered with Bank of America, for example, on healthcare, and with a number of all the large healthcare organizations. So what happens in healthcare? Well, a lot of people enter pretty low-paying jobs, CNAs, and other jobs. They maybe aspire toward more advanced jobs like nursing that pays more, but oftentimes there is not really a pathway for people to get the additional education and certifications to be able to advance. And this is a critical problem in healthcare. We are not going to be able to meet our nursing challenges without a complete changeover in the way in which companies operate in terms of pathways, which, my organization is SVP, and the Governor's Workforce Council is very involved in working on these things. It also calls for a big change in the educational system, in the community colleges, in the 4 years, in the privates. And, President Madugo is here representing CT State, and he, has a visionary plan to add more nursing opportunities, LPNs, which are the our living wage job, and are the lead up to our registered nurses, and you can accomplish that in a much shorter period of time. We have, believe it or not, almost no programs offered by nonprofit higher education in the state to become an LPN. So that's a broken part of the healthcare pathway. We could talk about computer science or manufacturing. We could shift gears and we'd see similar kinds of issues. But healthcare is the biggest area in terms of jobs in Connecticut and most places, and we have to get it right. Now, there are programs like Career Connect, Good Jobs Challenge, Connecticut Health Horizons that are making a dent in this. So there is work going on at a statewide level to kind of help work on these issues. But I just want everybody to kind of, on the answer of why haven't we gotten there, these are really complex problems to solve.
I think some of the complications that I face is when I think about working with partner organizations, I'm always looking to change the narrative. And so for so many years, you have to be 21 for this field or have this credential or have this particular. And I'm always looking to change the narrative with my partnerships, whether they be business, organization, whether they be college and university systems, to say, if we build this, they will come and they will step up and they will do this. And so how can we change that narrative is a big part of my complication, to say, let's give children and our families the different opportunities that are out there for them, that we know are there for them, to start them off, as my fellow panelists said, to bring them to an earlier point, a younger age, and how do we get that started and see that through with the types of wraparound support. So I know that's one of the complications that I'm always working through in our collaboration work, and just letting the collaborators know and partners know that I'm working with that. Give it a chance, because you're going to see we can bring parents and scholars to the table, and they can help revolutionize your business, your work, your organization, and your college and university.
Thank you so much. So I think, this theme of strong partnership building, the need to strengthen the partnerships, continues to come out. And, you touched on this, each of you, a little bit in your last response, but could you tell me a little bit more about what economic and education development opportunities you see present yourselves from your perspectives, and how businesses can think about how this can support their bottom line? And I'd look to Mark, Jesse, and Lamont to kind of get into that.
Okay. So I just want to make sure, Liz, I understand the question.
Yeah.
How to get educators and employers together?
Yeah, and really there's a case to be made here that we make in the paper around how this really supports the business bottom line. Right. And so where do you see those links happening?
Yeah, we need infrastructure to do this. And the infrastructure, one part of the infrastructure is regional sector partnerships that exist now in manufacturing, healthcare, IT, biotech, and will be formed in other categories too. This is where you bring business leaders together with education leaders, and they kind of work together to be able to define exactly what the job opportunities are, the skills and knowledge required, and then work with education partners to kind of really start to kind of change the curriculum and programs to be in alignment. Because one of the things I heard with regard to the report, that unfortunately one of the things that they saw was that sometimes, with all the money being spent on job training, people emerge without the right skill sets. And that's a big problem. So we got to get it right. We got to get people working together at the table. And why is that difficult? Because, first of all, it's, people are playing roles they haven't played before. Employers haven't really necessarily seen their role as kind of working hand in hand with the colleges, for example, to redesign curriculum. And on the education side, faculty view this as their province. They oftentimes don't see economic, social mobility and employment as their primary job. They are trying to help students learn, explore, become good citizens, but also employment has to be a big part, has to be an important part. So it's happened in a lot of places. It happens today in a lot of places in Connecticut. If you look at, for example, in manufacturing in eastern Connecticut, we'll train 1,500 people this year, and we've trained, over time, thousands of people for high-quality jobs at Electric Boat and other smaller manufacturers. So there's a lot of successes in Connecticut and elsewhere, which we can use as a basis to kind of make progress here.
Yeah, I think, as I think about this document, and then I guess I'll also connect it to just my previous experiences working in partnerships. And I think I often say this a lot. I think we have to get the message right. I think, all of us there in the room, I think we get it. But and I'm looking at Brian, and Brian has been very, Norwalk Chamber, shout out to Brian. We have to really know our audiences. So from an employer, the message might be very different from an educational institution, from a nonprofit. And I think for me, as I think about this document, I think kind of my takeaway is, how do I articulate this, to legislators, to our Common Council? Because they're going to look at it as a bottom line, as an investment. Why, Lamont, are you asking us for money? And I think that's where I'm saying for me, but I think we all can use some help in this area of really a comms strategy, because the data is the data, but how do you then unpack it to individual audiences so they get it, so when we leave them, they are inspired and say, where do I sign up? How do I get engaged? Because in Norwalk, we do have what we call our believers, but there's a few of them, but we want more. And it's been a challenge to really get our employers so they can articulate, this is not happening, but I need you to be a part of the conversation. And that's where the breakdown is. So I think, in terms of, I'm probably messing up your agenda, but if we could put that in the parking lot. But then, from a city perspective, and I say this to Jesse all the time, I get it. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I work with families. But, that's not my colleagues in City Hall. Help me articulate in a way that they get it. They're kind of saying, okay, we need to figure out how to help and work this. Because I think we take, we assume that, we're helping children. Yes, but then there's that but. And I think we need to figure out what's after that but.
Yeah, I'll just add that it's a backwards design process. And so we've seen this successful. Carol came from P-TECH. I know Karen Amaker's here, but P-TECH started from IBM, talking about what skills and jobs were needed, and then did a backwards design process to a school where students graduate with an associate's degree, and it's a partnership with Norwalk Community College. And the fact is that you need employers to be consistently at the table, sharing what are the skills, credentials, and certifications that we value. And for a long time, I think when you look at job positions, they do require a four-year degree, but we don't really know what that looks like for the jobs that don't require a four-year degree. Do all the jobs that list a four-year degree actually require it, or is there a particular lived experience or a short-term training or a particular individual that you're looking for that we can change that narrative? And I think employers can be part of that conversation. It goes both ways on that. And I just want to kind of echo what Lamont said. We're super grateful to have the Greater Norwalk Chamber as a strong partner in this, but overall employer engagement is really hard in this work that we're talking about with Opportunity Youth. It's hard to find employers that are really committed, and we really need, it's not just a corporate social responsibility piece or a charitable, we're giving back to the community. This is, we really need business champions and CEOs. An example, Novelette will talk about it, their partnership with Norwalk Hospital, but Norwalk Hospital is a great example, and Peter Cordeau, and I know there's some folks from Norwalk Hospital here, is a great example of an employer really stepping up and being a part of the conversation.
Thank you all. So I think stemming from that, Jesse, just from the research and bringing it back locally again, there's so many job opportunities available, and one of the things that was highlighted in the paper is that if nothing's done, there's going to be all these unfilled positions just kind of left on the table. And then that's matched with a slew of young people that are eager to seek those opportunities. And so stemming from this idea that you articulated, all of you, around partnering with businesses and other strategic partnerships, in what ways does this theme, what opportunities are presenting themselves across locally and across regions? And I'll look to Mark to answer the regional perspective, and Jesse and Carol to talk more about Norwalk.
Well, I would say that I do tend to kind of think of this in kind of a sector kind of, basis. So obviously we have a lot of healthcare kind of opportunities, and it's really great, as Jesse said, to see, Norwalk Hospital, Stanford Hospital, Bridgeport Hospital, others kind of, really deeply engaged in this work, because I think that's kind of one of the areas where I think we have the most kind of potential. Manufacturing, we have this pretty strategic company down the road from here, ASML, that is kind of key to the future, chip industry in the country. 3,000 employees today, maybe doubling over time. We could be setting up programs, working with them to train, manufacturing technicians and so on. And there are, Dan from the Manufacturing Regional Sector Partnership is here, and there's many other manufacturers kind of in the region. Digital jobs, IT jobs, which really relate to financial services and all industries really, is an area that we really have to put a lot of focus on, because can't just be looking backwards. We have to be looking kind of forward. And even though it wasn't the top one on the list, I would say almost every job requires deep digital skills. All those office jobs that was, I think, number one on the list, they all require digital skills. So we need to kind of really focus educationally on making sure that students at a very early age, and certainly in high school, have the ability to take computer science, they have the ability to be able to develop those skills. So those would be kind of, places I would start at least.
So in April 2022, when I joined this particular position in workforce development, I was very intentional in creating systems that would speak to having our scholars K all the way to 12 and our families 18 and plus be engaged in the market. And how I did that was I created an MPS workforce development series, which is an open website that anyone can go to, faculty, staff, kiddos, sixth grade and up to 12, and families and scholars. And on that particular website, I looked at, to Jesse's point, some backwards design. I looked at different areas. I looked at job postings, at job areas, internships, volunteer, apprenticeship and training, and I'm not including one right now that's not coming to mind, fall, year-round opportunities. So those are kind of 5 areas that live on this open access website. So it's not just for Norwalk Public School scholars and families, it is open for everyone. But upon that, that is updated on a weekly basis. And so people can go on because we know that people are looking for opportunities in their work that bring them joy, and they're looking for changes that make them happy. And this is one place they can go to see all of the different opportunities. And in that backward design thinking that Jesse talked about, which he's completely correct on, we have to start them younger and younger. So part of that series, being volunteer, being internship, is getting your foot in the door, because it is as important to a scholar and a family member to know what they like as it is to know what doesn't work for them. So let's have them try in the internship. Let's have them try in the volunteer area to know this isn't for me and I need to pivot. I need to go to something else because it's not working. And so this particular framework that's been built and embedded also speaks to another framework that I built, which was to have workforce development series, which are basically grade-specific series where I bring workforce development into the schools, and further do workforce development for our families that are 18 and older in the evening, where they come in, and I'm connecting them with all real-world opportunities, sharing with them the website, looking at credentials and certifications. And so when I said before, if you build it, they will come, it has been a tremendous response. People have applied, they've gone into apprenticeships, they're changing ideas, they're getting certifications. There's a lot of excitement that's happening around it, and it's something for everybody, and I think that's is exceptionally as important that we go across all fields to, like Mark said before, ignite the youth in the conversation and have them discover their passions along the way, but help change the lives of our families and scholars and get them connected to the open opportunities. And this is a way for them to start building their skills.
So when I think about the white paper, there's a large population of opportunity youth. There's a large amount of jobs that are available. And then we're hearing from employers that it's really hard to find talent. And so to me, what I hear from that is that there's a lack of consistent alignment and communication between higher education institutions, training providers, social service providers, and employers. And so we really need to have system-level alignment and improvement and coordination. And we're really grateful to have a partnership with the City of Norwalk, which all folks here are connected to. The infrastructure we're trying to build is around a Norwalk Workforce Development Committee and really a strategy for how do we coordinate the various opportunities that exist in Norwalk and create kind of a menu of options for opportunity youth to use. And right now, a couple of years ago, I would say that it's a little bit like the Wild Wild West, where if you think about a higher education system where students go to school, they learn about colleges in 9th grade, and the college application process is embedded within 4 years, but it doesn't really look like that for a student who's not considering a 2 or 4 year degree. And so we need to get better about creating options and opportunities and making sure that those options are valued in the same way that a college degree is, and making sure that we have a system in place that when students, they're either getting these supports while they're in school, and whether they graduate, that there is still a system that they're entering that's coordinated among different opportunities that exist and that are connected to employers that are committed to hiring opportunity youth at the end.
One of the points that's been emphasized here, which I think is a great one, is around apprenticeships, and paid kind of internships. I think it's really difficult for many youth we're talking about to actually, learn, if they're not getting paid. And that's kind of one of the problems that we're seeing with, especially kind of youth, is that many of them have, starting in high school, they're working in minimum wage jobs. And it's really hard to even recruit them, as some people who've worked with me in this room know, into kind of, higher level kind of, job training programs, because they will say they can't afford them. They can't afford, their family needs the money that they're making. And so I think we really have to kind of get much more aggressive on the employer side on embracing different forms of apprenticeships and kind of, paid internships to if we're going to be able to give youth the opportunity to grow and learn and build the skills that are necessary.
I just want to because I just put a pin in that, because I think for me I was quite surprised. I think we learned that even more during COVID when we all shut down and we worked with the school, our community navigator program, and the teachers would say they weren't on, so that was considered an absence. So we would go to the students' homes. So there was the component around digital access, but we also found out what's surprising to me, these young people were working during school hours to help their families. And that was a nuance. I was just blown away that during COVID, no, they weren't in school during the day through the digital programs. They were actually working because they were helping their families. And I think the last piece, I think part of the report that I want to underscore with the infrastructure, the systems, is the wraparound services. Because out of that 33%, who are those young people? What does home look like? What does the family structure look like? How are they doing socially, emotionally, and internally? And I think we need to look at that so they can have the supports. So we're encouraging them to do better and create these pathways. You also have to be in a good place to do that.
Can I add on to that really briefly? Thank you. We also created, it's making me think about the MPS internships we created, and we tried to align them with the career clusters, and we have 5 created internships, and you're absolutely right. We're competing with other wages, other jobs. Last year, I was able to open them up, and some were paid and some were not paid. And you really could see the difference in terms of the number of students interested in paid versus unpaid. It just makes absolute sense. So shamelessly, if anyone here is looking for interns in an internship program, please let me know. But it's because I'm wanting to expand the programming. But that point's very well taken. We have a lot of competing entities that we're competing with, and it does make it hard because we want them to have the right skills.
Well, thank you all. This is last question, and then we're going to move on to the next panel, and then you all can have an open discussion at the end. So we really view this paper as contributing to some prior existing research around this area as a local example. So how do we take advantage of the momentum around this issue that continues to resurface, and what do you all envision as some next steps?
Okay. So next steps, there are a variety of partners already doing this work. It's so great to see that Norwalk Public Schools is investing in workforce development, that the city of Norwalk is involved with this, that there's a whole state plan around this with regional sector partnerships. But it's really about how do we, from my perspective of where I sit, how do we get Norwalk plugged into all that? And how do we make sure that the resources that are coming from the state and from the region, that Norwalkers are taking advantage of those opportunities? I think one of the immediate next steps based on this is we now have a blueprint, as Lamont said, for what jobs lead to livable wage employment. And we need to really communicate this out to the communities and get this in front of opportunity youth that need this the most. And we want to be really clear about what that looks like, what skills are needed, what trainings are available, what supports are there, and as well as here's this job and here's the career pathway that it leads to. And really want to make sure that everyone is aware of those pathways and that we have supports in place and that there's access to those supports and that we're getting it across to everyone in the community. So I think we have a really great launch pad with this paper to start to move to action on this. And I think it requires all of us working together to get to that point.
Yeah, I agree with what Jesse just said, and I would just add that just do it. You have in Norwalk some really powerful examples. P-TECH, and Karen's here and other people who are involved with P-TECH. Great model, but it doesn't reach every single kid. Obviously, it's what now about 400 students, in P-TECH, but that's not nothing in terms of the high school. You have all this great work starting in healthcare with employers like Norwalk Hospital, with the Carver, with the schools. Let's build that out in healthcare. Let's build something really robust in terms of career pathway programs in healthcare. There are some opportunities in manufacturing and construction, as the report said. Let's kind of literally, get very specific about in the area of program development, which is, I'm teeing up the next panel for you, on the things that can be, implemented by bringing these kind of partnerships together and then kind of helping students kind of find the things that really they're most interested in.
I think for me, I kind of talked about it, is I'm stuck on this messaging thing. How do we talk about it in the various audiences? And we were just talking earlier, there's a lot of coalitions and networks and collaboratives that the city of Norwalk actually facilitates. And so one of the big takeaways is we want to get this into those conversations, into those groups. So the nonprofits and the social service organizations and all the different groups that we as a city participate or own, we need to get the message out and get people talking about it and becoming aware of this document because there are children.
I think for us, and also to cue up Carver and Novelette, I think the Earn to Learn model is something to expand upon. I think they've made it very very successful. And I think in terms of looking at the current systems and structures we have in place and expanding upon them in the right areas with the right people, now is the time because we know the opportunity is there. We know that in this paper we can, I believe, uplift 9,600 of our scholars out of poverty just by the work that we're doing. And it's very inspiring to continue those steps and to continue to build upon the frameworks we have in place and work together as partners to ensure we come together in the right way for our scholars and families.
Just quickly, it just came to me. And then lift up. I mean, we're lifting up Norwalk Hospital. We need to lift that up more so other employers can see what good looks like and encourage other employers maybe they may want to join.
Thank you all so very much. Next, we're going to hear from a panel of practitioners.